Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Wise. Welcome to Industry Insider. I'm joined with my coworker and friend, Matt Jones. Hi, Matt. How's it going?
Hey, good morning, Carrie. Good morning to everybody who's watching today.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since we've had our last show, but we are back. And we want to thank you so much for joining us on Industry Insider. I want to encourage you all to share this with your friends, share
Mhm.
this with your colleagues, anybody you know on Facebook, because we want the word to get out there about Industry Insider and the amazing guests we're having on this show. So, Matt, speaking of Industry Insider, share with them what this show is all about.
Well, let's tell you about the show. Industry Insider is a perfect idea for today's market. We know that there's a lot of opportunity for third-party vendors and third-party people who are not vendors to really try to educate or help the auto community, see its best way through. But Carrie and I have always believed that sometimes the best information comes from people who are just like you, who are living the same life, who have the same experiences, and that's where the best learnings can come from. So we created the show Industry Insider Dealer to Dealer Conversations to give dealers a platform to share their best tips and their best practices with other dealers so that we can all be more successful in this industry. And today, do I get to talk about her or do you?
Well, I'll let you talk about her.
Okay.
I'll
All
let
right.
you take that.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, but I'm so excited about today's guest. The one and only Amanda Gordon. Now, for the few of you who don't know who she is the owner of GoJo Auto. It's an independent dealership in Denver, Colorado. She is an industry veteran. She's also an ambassador for the Colorado Independent Automobile Association. But more importantly than all of that, she's just like an all-around superstar. So I'm very excited to have her on the show with us. We're going to be talking about ownership because she's a dealership owner. We're going to be talking about diversity. We're going to be talking about opportunities and obstacles in the workplace. So I can't contain myself. Thank you for letting me do that one, Carrie. I was very excited about her.
All right, without further ado, the Amanda Gordon. Hi,
Amanda. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, TrueCar Industry Insider. Matt, great intro. I was over here getting pumped up.
I'm pumped up. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, he stole that from me. I had practiced my intro for you.
Oh, wow.
But sometimes I gotta let Matt just take it,
Every once in a while I just can't control myself. I'm like a little puppy.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for being on all the way from Denver, Colorado. And what Matt, I don't know if Matt mentioned this, and I think it's really important that you are the first Black woman in the state of Colorado to ever have a dealer license. Is that correct?
On record. We don't know if, in the 1800s or something before written law came to pass, but on record.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. And and by the way, I knew that. In full disclosure, Amanda is a friend. So I knew that, but it's pretty shocking to think about that. We're in 2020,
right?
Like for that to be the first is pretty shocking, but also amazing, right? We got to start somewhere, and we're starting with you.
Well, and those were exactly the emotions that I felt when I found out. In got a little bit of kickback there. In 2018, when I got my dealer's license, when I found out, and how I found out is that I am an ambassador for our local association, Colorado Independent Auto Dealers Association. They brought it to my attention. And I was kind of like, wow, that's interesting. And then excited, but also like, what year is it? And then instantly felt an obligation and a responsibility to take it to the next level, right? Because now I can't fail. I got a lot of weight on my shoulders, and I'm ready to bear that weight. So it's amazing. It's awesome. It's beautiful. And for me, what a great time to be a Black woman in business. Never have I felt so protected, so covered, and so seen with everything that's going on in our country. And again, it's a great responsibility, and I'm proud to be that woman here in Colorado.
That is just so awesome.
I love that.
So if it's okay, let's talk about you for a bit. Normally we would transition into the conversation about business and everything, but let's talk about you for a bit. We want to spend a little bit more time than usual talking about the Amanda Gordon. So tell us about your beginnings in automotive. Well, tell us about yourself and tell us about your beginnings in automotive, please.
So myself, it's hard to differentiate because cars is my life, right? I eat, I sleep, I hand out my business cards at the gas station. So I kind of am GoJo Auto right now, but I wasn't always. Let me take you back. So I just moved here from Sacramento, California. Fresh California girl. But you couldn't really tell me nothing. And I was going to school and I was working at the Gap retail store. At this time, Gap denim and jeans were all the craze. This was before True Religion and all of that. And this young lady came into my store and she said, don't even try to sell me any pairs of your Gap denim. We're not going there. Sweaters or whatever she was there for. It took me 2 hours. She left with 3 pairs of Gap denim jeans. And we were talking and laughing the whole time. And she was a woman of color. She was a biracial woman. And she said, you need to come work with me. And that kind of took me back. I'm like, that's weird. I have a job, ma'am. You see that? And
I'm here.
Yeah, hello. And I'm doing great. And my dreams and aspirations were to be a regional manager of the Gap because you needed a degree. So that's what I was going to school for, business management. And like at that time, that was my cap, regional manager, and we were going to rock out. And she said, you need to come work with me. And I said, well, okay, what do you do? And she said she worked for Honda. My boyfriend in high school drove a Honda. So I was familiar. He was in the Honda Civic Club, and I could drive a manual transmission. I was one of the few people who could drive a manual. My mother, my first car was a 96 Hyundai Accent. She gave me a 10-minute lesson when I was 16. And then we hopped on the I-80 highway. She told me to follow her in my new car that she just gave me a 10-minute lesson on. Mom, if you're listening, I'm still traumatized. And I know how to drive a stick. So anywho, I considered myself a car enthusiast because I could drive a manual and I knew the different trim levels with Honda. So I walk into it was within a week's time, I walk into this beautiful Honda building and the glass and everything's vibing and moving. I was in Golden, Colorado. And I was like, this is fast paced. I like this. And they told me how much money I could make. Okay. So my first month, I sold 8 cars, got that first check. That was it. Bye school. Literally, I left school and our business was it for me.
That's it.
And I've been in it ever since. And I've left, we have that love-hate relationship. I've left and done some other thing. I got my real estate license for a while. I was doing TV for a while and hosting. But I always came back. Great money, especially for those who don't have a college degree. It was fun, fast paced, schedule's a little crazy, but I was lucky enough, throughout that I had a son and a marriage and a divorce. And throughout that, I was a single mom, but I was lucky enough to have a management team that backed me and allowed me to bring my son in. But I was also a producer, right? I think that when you're a producer, you can ask for a little leeway, and that's in any given situation, right? And so, my son's a car kid. I mean, he came to Saturday sales meetings with me. He's seen me close more car deals than you name it. And he just became a fixture, right? I'd pick him up after school. My managers would help him do his homework. My counterparts would, sit with him or entertain him. It made it easy for me to be successful. And so I made my way through the ranks through finance, and then kind of toggled between finance and sales. And then I got into the independent side. I kind of took a break from the car business. And when I came back, one of my old general managers had started his own independent dealership. He said, hey, why don't you come work for me part-time and see how it goes? And that's when I really started learning the car business side of the business. And that's when I started kind of falling in love with the car business, because on the independent side, dealing with used cars, you're dealing with people who need transportation, right? Like their car just broke down and they've got to get to work. They've got kids to pick up. They got groceries to get. It's not their second or third car, buying a car for their nanny. Yes, I did some car deals like that. This gentleman paid, I'll never forget this, when this gentleman paid, he put his Honda Odyssey EXL on his Amex for his nanny. And I was like, God, how does that even happen? What is that? Rich people problems. And so, and like you're more of an order taker when you're doing that, right? You're not really changing someone's life. I mean, if they've got a nanny, their life is probably
they're doing all right.
doing all right. And so getting on the independent side and really, having people cry when you help them get into a car that they didn't think they could get into, having those first time buyers that don't have help, either they're detached from their family units and they really need help in deciphering how to buy a car, how to do a car loan, how to get insurance, how to get their plates. And I left at work after getting into the independent side. I would leave work feeling full, right? Like with a purpose. And so came on full time with him. And then I helped another gentleman, right? Because these are all men. I helped another gentleman build a dealership. And then I helped 2 more people build dealerships. And by that 4th dealership, I'm looking at the numbers on the back end because I'm privy to all the reports and the information. And I'm saying, well, I'll be darned. I'm bringing the lenders, I'm bringing the vendors, I'm bringing the customer base because I'm pumping out social media. I started doing that 6 years ago. Why can't I do this for myself? Well, of course. Well, how could you do this for yourself? You never see any women. There's a reason why there's no women doing this, Amanda. You're a mom. How are you going to take care of your son? It's too risky. And you don't have any money. Well, unfortunately, funding for minority businesses is not as abundant as it is for our white counterparts. So, we can get into the history of that. We don't need to, but it's just not there. I can't walk into a bank and say, I'm thinking of starting a business, give me money, right? Mm-hmm. Or even go to my family, who has been in business for multiple generations and say, hey, family, I'm going to do my own thing. I need 100. I need 200 grand, right? So luckily, my mother, who is my apple of my eye, my oracle, my best friend, hardworking woman, she backed me 100% on my endeavor. And Carrie knows the story, but I was on a jog and like a bolt of lightning, I was hit by my higher power and said, you're ready. And the next Monday I went and I applied for my license. And the rest, they say, is history, as they say is history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You had such an amazing career, and we haven't even gotten into GoJo yet, right? But like you've had such a long career. By the way, as you were talking, I realized all of our connections here on this interview. Like, one, we're all from the Bay Area originally, right? Right, Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. 2, I had a Honda. You had a Honda. I drove a stick. You drove a stick on your first Honda.
Manual?
Matt sold Hondas, right? For years and years and years, right? Matt, right? How many years did you sell
12
Hondas?
years. 12 years.
12 years.
12 years.
So another weird connection.
That's going to go to Honda and Hyundai, because they had a Hyundai point also. So I toggle back and forth. But yeah, Honda and Hyundai are my OG brands.
Yeah, mine too.
And the third is that we're all just so amazing, right? As professionals. So that's the third one. But you have had such an amazing career. And but you said then the lightning struck and you thought, like, I want to jump into ownership. Yeah. And so was that a crazy leap for you? And like, did anybody discourage you from doing it? Because you talked about your mom backing you, but you had to have also brought it up to someone else that said, are you insane?
Oh yeah. Oh God, please. So first of all, I didn't have anything to lose at that point. Right. So I always knew I could go back to sales and make, 6 figures. But I also knew, when something's right, it's right. Yeah. And I knew that as long as I put in the work, I wasn't going to fail. But I knew it was going to take work, as anything worth having should. And yes, there were multiple people, because I am very connected across the automotive space, who, it's so much work. Oh, margins are paper thin. It's not the way it used to be. It's hard to acquire inventory. Lending, it's tough. You're not going to be able to get credit unions for 2 years, which I was able to get in 8 months. Okay. Thank you very much. And so it was, for as many no's as I heard, or you shouldn't, it just made me understand why even more I needed to do it. Like it was just for every no, I was like, it just made my will and my grit and my determination even stronger to get it done. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I would say most people who were telling me no have never owned a business and have never taken a risk in their life. Right? They lived in a safe space, which again, I've got to give kudos to my mother. My mother has been with the government for 42 years. She's the only minority female director of the U.S. Mint, which is the top 1% of government officials. So she's making history. But anywho, for her to get out of her comfort zone and to say, I believe in you, was huge. And it was kind of like after I had my HP and my mom, like, we're good. It's really
awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of negativity and people trying to tell you what you should do, again, who have never been there before. The people who had been there before, who I wanted to follow in their footsteps, were like, go get it, girl. And that's who I stay aligned.
So what was your first step from an ownership standpoint? You apply for your license, you start getting things together. How did you launch this?
So
GoJo Auto.
Colorado is one of the most highly regulated dealer licensing states. So it took me 3 months to go through the process, which was nerve wracking because it's like, are they even going to give me this thing? And so going through that, and luckily I had already set up from ground up grassroots 3 dealerships prior to. So I kind of knew what the process looked like. So as I was waiting to get my license, I had a ton of faith that it was going to happen. So I started setting up my CRM and my DMS. I started loading in all my business cards that I had collected over the years, right? And creating a database of customers to start soliciting to. Got my lenders together that they told me I couldn't get. I got my vendors in order, right? Got my marketing got my marketing strategy together, which in the beginning, I couldn't afford a heavy duty marketing strategy. So my marketing strategy consisted of posting on Facebook for free, all organic, no paid, no ads, no boosts. Couldn't afford no boosts. It was just all 100% organic. Blasting on Facebook. Back in my day, Craigslist was free. So I was posting on Craigslist. I was posting on Let Go. Let Go was free. And that was my marketing. But I mean, I was blasting, doing videos, doing pictures, uploading inventory, doing everything I could for free. And then after 2 or 3 months, I was able to add a couple of other third-party vendors that most dealers use. And then the wheels started turning. End of January, I opened my doors January 1st, 2019. By end of January, I had my first employee, my first sales/finance person to help me, and we just took off running. We sold 7 cars January. I sold 7 cars January with no marketing, right? Just straight Facebook and word of mouth, 7 cars. And I'll be honest, when I because I had made more money that month than I had in my entire career in the auto business, they don't teach you how to budget, how to pay up for inventory. Child, let me tell you, I was sitting courtside at the Nuggets game, and then I was like, I need to re-up inventory. What? So I learned a lot of stuff the hard way, trial and error, right? And so
Wait, we got to stop at the Nuggets game. So you got that first check and you were living it up, right? You were like Mark Cuban, like entrepreneur.
First month, right? And so February was rough. February was rough, and I'm so glad I could talk about this now because I was ashamed, I was embarrassed. But even when you get your license, which I would love to teach a startup for dealers starting from the ground up, what you actually need, right? Selling cars is the easiest part of this business, if you ask me. Okay. The hardest part is managing the business, acquiring the inventory, and pricing it right to move, right? And making sure you're not spending too much money in any area of your business. But they don't teach you any of that when you're getting your license, which is crazy. So taxes, we didn't know what those were till third quarter, first year. That was crazy. Girl, it's not right. Now we know, though. Now we know.
Now you know the hard way. Well,
Nope.
and it is a lesson, and it's a lesson in being nimble, though, right? Because oftentimes we're kind of held back by waiting for perfection. So it might not be ideal just to roll with it and not know about taxes or not know about savings, but there is an opposite end of the spectrum where you don't move forward because you're just waiting for perfection.
Right.
You didn't have that problem.
No, I didn't. And I follow a lot of motivational people on social media. And, one of the ones that, if you wait until it's perfect, you'll never start. It's never the perfect time to start. And so I literally just dove in. And like I said, I always had it in the back of my head that what's the worst that can happen? I go back to sales. But I also know that failure is not an option, right? I see so many dealers out there who I feel, don't even have all the resources I have or are as nimble or as educated in automotive data as I am, and they're successful, right? So I say that comparatively speaking, like I have the formula, just have to put the action behind it, make sure my team is up to stuff. That's one of my most important tasks, making sure my team is where they need to be, because if they're where they need to be, then GoJo's good. And so making sure my team is good is my top priority. Every morning we do check-ins. How are you? And the first thing I want to know is how are they outside of work, right? Like how are you doing? How is your head? How is your heart? And then let's move forward to what we're going to accomplish today.
Yep. Matt, why don't you jump in here? I feel like me and Amanda are just taking this interview over. So
I know,
why don't you join us?
I'm sitting here enjoying this whole thing because I'm like, I get to be I don't know. It's like I'm at the front. It's like, what is it? Front seat at the Nuggets? That's kind of like me right now watching this.
Courtside.
See, I've never been, so I don't know the right nomenclature. But so I wanted to talk to you about. So if I understand it, you start off with some dealerships, right, and then you transition to independent, and that's where you got your motivation to start your own when you saw that you can do it. But let's talk about like your dealership experience for just a moment.
Sure.
When you started selling, was my experience selling Hondas? Most of the people were male. Like my sales floor for years and years, it was just male, right? I don't know if that's surprising to you or not, but I wanted to know if like, what was your experience like? Was it like that? Was it,
So I was really blessed to have female representation on the sales floor and the finance office, right? But not in upper management or ownership.
Okay.
So there were 3 women, Arlene Glazer, Rose Lavelle, and Mary Sagona. I'll never forget these 3 women. And then Kinmara Hughes, she was a finance manager. She's the one who brought me from Gap to Honda. So there were women, but I mean, 4 out of 40, right? So yeah, they were there. And all of them were bad butts, right? Like all of them dominated. Rose Lavelle was a 25-car producer. Mary Sagona she was the internet department before there was an internet department. She would answer the emails and just set appointments. Just her. And you knew if they were there to see Mary, they were there from the interweb, right?
Whatever that thing is. Yes.
The interweb.
Like how does she do that? What sorcery is she getting these people? And all she was doing was following up. She was the BDC/internet before it was even a thing, and she was rocking it 20 cars a month. Arlene Glazer, this woman used to sell. Okay, she used to run circles around everybody, and so I had that visual representation on the sales floor. But again, not at the sales desk, and not a sales manager, finance director, GM. And ownership was all white male.
Well, it's funny you say that because Matt and I were talking probably last week, and we were talking about just Black women and the different issues that are going on right now. And I couldn't think of one general manager or owner, maybe even GSM in the entire industry that was a Black woman. And listen, for those who are watching right now, if I am wrong, please write the person's name into the comments right now. If you know of a Black woman that's a GSM or a GM or an owner in all of America, please send it into me so I can reach out to her. and apologize because I've never met her. And Matt, have you?
No, and you know, the turnover rate in dealerships is relatively high. You know,
Right.
like a lot of people, you don't get really married emotionally to your sales managers or your GMs because they're right. So 12 years in Southern California, and this is a pretty hot market, I would say. And I work for some pretty heavy hitting dealerships that, you know, one store did literally 1,000 deals a month, the store. I mean, so we're talking about some big, like, never seen it.
Right.
Never seen it. I've never seen a black GM.
Right.
I've seen a black GSM of a store that sold about 40 cars. Besides myself, I know 2 other black sales managers, a couple in finance, but as far as women,
Never seen it.
Never seen it.
It's just fascinating to think about, like really in all of America to think about.
Especially, and when you really consider the dynamic, at least of Southern California and San Fernando Valley, I think it's been rated the second most diverse piece of land in the country, you know, behind New York, right? So you've got every race, you've got every creed, you've got every background. One of the stores that I worked at had 1,000 employees. Like within the group, there was 1,000 employees, but upper management, all, you know, they kind of resembled each other. Sales managers, for the most part, kind of resembled each other, but everybody, you know, who didn't make it to that was where the mix was, right? That's where the men and the women and different backgrounds. And so that's the reason I asked you, Amanda, to see like what your experience with diversity was, because in some cases, some people, not you, not Carrie, maybe not me, but you need to see it in order for you to believe that you can actually do this. You have to have an example of somebody sitting in front of you.
Well, and I think it's subconscious. When you see a panel of people that look a certain way, I think instinctively you say, I don't belong there because I don't look like that.
Yeah, like maybe I can't play basketball because every basketball player that I see is 6'8",
right?
And I'm 6'1". Automatically, like, it doesn't matter even if I can, but in my head, I've already made the decision. I don't match this set. Right. So I'm not there.
I had a relative in my family when she was a little girl. She was like maybe 7 years old when she said this. And I said to her, you know, we're talking about what she wants to be when she gets older. And I said, you know, maybe you'll be the president. And she says to me, oh, no, girls can't be the president. And I mean, I was floored. I was like, what? What are you talking about? She goes, oh, no, girls aren't allowed to be the president. She believed that because she had never seen it. She had never even seen at that time, you know, even a woman running for president. And so literally she had just taken the leap that it actually was a rule that was in place that you couldn't be it. And so that just always reminded me that, like, when you don't see it, you literally just kind of create your own rules. It's like, it's not possible. So let's talk back to you, Amanda. What have been your challenges though in this business? You know, whether it be when you were in sales or at dealerships or owning, you know, as a woman, as a person of color, like have you faced unique challenges?
You know, I really don't think I did until I became an actual owner.
Okay.
One thing is, if I ever faced a challenge, I never looked at it as, oh, that happened because I was a Black woman. I just saw it as a challenge and how do I get over it? How do I find a solution and keep it moving, right? Because I do believe that challenges and adversities are life's test to make us better, to level up. And so I never have pinpointed any certain situation and said, oh, that happened because I was a Black woman. Until I became an owner. I can just, being as professional as I can, having a network of people that I leaned on and could talk to kind of disappeared when I became the first Black woman in Colorado to own a dealership. That circle got smaller and smaller. Phone calls that used to get answered, or text messages that I used to be able to send to get an answer on a question I might have, just disappeared. And I don't know if it was because they didn't want their organization or their club infiltrated. But I did feel a sense of abandonment and betrayal. And I'm kind of like, it almost makes you want to create your own table, another table, right? Because I don't want to have to beg to be a part of anything, to be honest. And so I can say that, and I can say from the bottom of my heart that if I looked like this particular group, I wouldn't have had an issue with being a part of. So, but it's okay, right? It's okay. It doesn't cause me to lose sleep at night or make my passion and my purpose any less. It just makes me recognize and realize that, not everybody's going to accept you. Not everybody's going to advocate for you, but you've got to accept yourself and advocate for yourself and keep pushing, because there is a young girl somewhere out there looking at you and watching you and saying, I can do whatever I want to do because Amanda Gordon did it in a space that was not allowing her to do it. And she did it and she dominated. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like I'm not saying this to be light. I'm being very serious. You're like a brand ambassador.
Yes.
You are, showing people, as we mentioned earlier, I've been in the car business. I started in 2001, right? So I've been in it for some time. I've done some sales. I've met some people, and myself, we've come around people who said, hey, I want to start a dealership. I want my own thing. I want my own stuff. We ain't done it though, but you did it, right? So there's a whole lot about it, because it's not like opening up a lemonade stand in front of your place, right? No. It's serious, right? So you are like a brand ambassador.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm still learning the moving parts. But, fewer. I'm getting a grasp on a lot of things. But even when I started so there's a difference, right? Even when I was running somebody else's shop, there was still a lot I didn't know until I opened up my own thing, right? When it's your money and your time and your reputation, it looks a lot different. It really does. And when you're playing with somebody else's money, general sales managers, general managers, it's different. It's different. And so the risks are different. The rewards are different. But it definitely looks different, but it's doable, right? Like this isn't, even if it was rocket science, it's doable.
Yes.
Not rocket science, but even if it was, if they can do it, why can't I?
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I think that's really important to share what you just said, in that, and what I always loved about you is you're very transparent, not just about your successes, but also your challenges. And I think that's important, because people, you hear people starting businesses or starting new initiatives or starting a new Facebook Live show or starting whatever. And then sometimes it kind of drops off and you're like, okay, people fail, but you don't often hear about the failures so much. You only really hear about the successes. And so I think hearing like those real challenges is like, even as an experienced automotive industry person as you were, there were some challenges still with you being an owner.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And I have a picture, I'll have to grab it, right outside my office of the first day I opened. The office is empty. And I'm sitting on the floor taking a picture, and I look scared. Okay. There is the fear. I'm smiling, but I'm scared. Like, we are doing this. And so, yes, there's a lot of fear and discomfort. But I just knew there was nowhere left for me to go. Even if I was a general manager at a franchise store, I wasn't an owner. And I just knew that this was where I was supposed to be. I knew it in all my being that this was where I was supposed to be. And so when you're aligned, right, things just fall into place and they happen the way they're supposed to happen. Another fault that I did when my first year, once, especially as an entrepreneur and a creative, my brain's always working. So I started little side projects. I'm like, oh, GoJo's going. Let me start little side projects, which distracted me and prevented me from the ultimate project, which is GoJo, my foundation, right? So if I can give any advice, like stay focused on your foundation and your core business, because that's your bread and butter. And without it, you can't do these other side projects. Yeah. Keep that in mind, right? I got a little fancy, I got a little excited, and I started traveling a lot and doing some public speaking engagements here, there, everywhere. I'm Amanda Gordon. But if your core business isn't moving, like GoJo is what allows me to be right. So if there is no GoJo, you don't have these other facets that are available. And I just say, keep that foundation top priority, and then go out and do your thing.
That's good advice.
When you were getting started, you took a picture of you day one in the office and you were scared, just scared.
I'm getting the picture.
Go get it. Go get it. All right. For those who just joined us, Amanda Gordon, the Amanda Gordon with us. She's going to get her picture so she can show you what scared looks like. Oh yeah, you look scared.
So that day one. Look at that face.
You look a little scared, Amanda.
You look a little scared.
No furniture. Like, what are we gonna do?
You look a little scared, but you've made it.
Now, barely 2 years in, not even 2 years in, and we're in GoJo 2.0. We've expanded offices. I have 5 employees and myself. And one of them is my nephew, which is so beautiful. I stole him from CarMax. He was an inventory manager there. So now he's our inventory manager. And it's beautiful. Like that was probably my best hire, just because to be able to hire your family member. And he's a bright-eyed 19-year-old ready to rock.
That's awesome. Jason Rice, you got some comments coming in, Amanda. I'm going to read a couple. So Jason Rice says, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes in my first year from spreading myself thin. And he also says, congrats. And then Melissa Skinner says, rock star lady. So awesome. It's tough. I had a dealership. All the moving parts are an understatement. So excited to see you rocking in this space.
Hey, thank you. Is that Jason Rice Lockpot?
Yeah. Huh? Yes. Yeah, that's Jason Rice. Yes. And Melissa Skinner as well.
Melissa. She gets it.
Yes, she gets it. Matt, I feel like I cut you off. Join us, Matt.
Oh, no. Okay, so thinking back to day one or day 30, whatever, of GoJo, what was the hardest thing compared to being in that environment where the weight is on you compared to working for somebody else? Like, what was in your mind? Like, I know that you said the only thing, if no matter how bad it goes, you can go back to sales, but there had to have been something else. You had to have some concerns in your head.
What were the concerns?
What was your biggest fear?
So the biggest fear, right, overall is complete failure, right? I'm not scared of little failures because I think they make us better and that's how we grow. But the biggest fear is overall failure, like GoJo's done, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was blessed enough to be introduced to people who taught me to make sure that I kept my overhead low, right? So I have a very non-traditional dealership, but they're becoming more prevalent. So I rent out office space and then my cars are parked adjacent. So in the beginning, I rented out like $900 a month of office space. And then I had a place to park my 2 cars that I started with. Thank you. Now we're up to 30. I'm asking.
How many?
30.
30.
18 months. And so, so my overhead was really low. So I'm like, okay, if we just sell 3 cars, bills are paid. So we're good. And so I put myself in a position where I didn't have to be too scared, where I didn't have to operate out of fear, but out of comfort and logic, right? And I just, look, I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm a hustler, right? Like I knew I could sell 3 freaking cars or even 10 for that matter, right? And so, and in between when I was getting my license, I brokered for a larger dealership that my buddy ran. And I was moving like 5 to 7 units part-time. Just through my network, my Facebook, my references, my referrals. So I knew I was I knew as long as I didn't have $10,000 in rent alone, I was going to be okay. Right. So I set myself up for success so that I didn't really have to come from a place of fear until I sat courtside months later. Then it got
so let's jump to another topic, which is culture. And I know you're really focused on creating a culture that is very different, I think, than a lot of dealerships out there. So tell me about your culture at your store and how does it differ from what you were used to when you were a salesperson, you know, in the industry in the beginning?
So first, it's important to me that every type of buyer is represented by my staff, right? So, and it takes time to lead up to that, right? Because you can only have so many staff members as you scale. But first and foremost, when I first started, it was all female. And I know that was by law of attraction. I didn't post any job postings that said only women. Through referrals and through word of mouth, my staff became all female, which people loved. I ran analytics on our buyers, and it was 48% men, 51% women. So split down the middle, people didn't mind, like they loved it. They were excited. And so, but in my head, I'm okay, we got to get a diverse with our genders. And it was all minority women. And so I didn't want to, take away from any other culture groups. So we hired a more diverse looking staff. And that's intentional, right? I think that's the issue, is that people in how many sales meetings and meetings do managers have at dealerships? Do they sit down and say, our staff is not a direct reflection of the people that we're selling to, let's fix it? Why are we not having those conversations, right? Why is that not an intentional thought? Or why is that not a part? They should give a spiff for someone bringing on a more diverse staff, right? So, if your demographic is 18% Filipino, why do you not have any Filipino salespeople? If your sales staff is diverse, why is your sales desk not diverse, right? So that you can ebb and flow and speak the language of your staff. Why? There's a dealership I'm close to. They have 22 salespeople, not one female. What is that about? What is that even about? And so I think these conversations need to be had, but again, they need to be intentional. These dealer groups need to want to change. The auto industry is a slow changing industry. And I get it. It's been working, right? Or has it been?
Or has it been? Well, I know you asked that question. Why is it? Why is it? And I think, that's part of the challenge is do these dealerships even think of it as a problem?
Right.
Or do they see the benefit?
Or do they think of it as an opportunity to be diverse? Maybe that's a better question.
Yeah. Do they see the opportunity?
Yes. Yeah, Matt. Matt and I have talked about this a lot about do you even see the benefit? And then I've heard, and let me just ask you, I've talked to owners and GMs of dealers that say, hey, I can't hire women. They don't apply. They just don't apply. So I've tried, but it's just not working. What would you say to that, Amanda?
I'm doing a hand signal right now that I'm going to keep.
Stop it.
I thought you were frozen. For a second.
I'm professional. This is TrueCar. So
keep it professional. No, someone just responded. I can agree.
I say malarkey. I say they're out there. And you take these male green peas and you walk them through the process. Why can't you go find and scout women? Why can't you find and scout minorities and put them through the training process? I have my nephew just started at a dealer group not too far from us, 18 years old. I just didn't have the capacity to train him and get him. So I said, go here. I hooked him up with, and 1 month he received nothing but training. They paid him $3,000 a month for training to be there to train, and trained him as a green pea for 1 month. Why can't you do this with everybody?
What's really challenging about that is when we talked about your initial foray into automotive, you said that there was some other women on the sales floor killing it. And then you had the finance manager. And my experience has been exactly what you said. When you find when the women are on the sales floor, women over-index for success compared to men. So it's something that I kind of struggle with myself when somebody says I'm unable to hire. You telling me you're not going to hire somebody who's going to bring 25 or 30 deals a month, and referral business and stuff like that. So,
kids to soccer and have dinner on the table and laundry ready on Sunday. Multitasking is what we do. Okay? It's what we do. It's what we were created to do. Take advantage of that, right? And statistically, I think the stats are still the same from what I checked from Women in Automotive last year. Women outsell men 10 to 8 on average. So by 2 cars. Wow. Why are we?
Does the makeup of the dealership in terms of culture, though, need to change to attract more women or people of color? In other words, there's one thing to say, well, they don't apply. There's another thing where I might look on your website or I might drive by and see the culture of the dealership. And as a woman, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather go apply at Mac at the mall than to apply to this dealership.
Right. Or Chick-fil-A. My pleasure.
Or Chick-fil-A or somewhere, right? That has a culture that I think I'm going to fit into. So tell me about, like, what do you think about the culture of a dealership that might prevent women or even people of color, for that matter, from applying?
Well, you're absolutely right, which I think the Meet the Staff page, why I think that page is so important, because that's a direct reflection of what your company is doing. I think if you're preaching that you're diverse and you're culturally inept and you're accepting of everyone, but when I log onto your website and your board members looks exactly the same, it's a false narrative, and which tells me you don't care, because actions always speak louder than words. And that visual representation is huge. To your point, Carrie, with your niece, how she thinks it's a rule that women can't be president. I think when you see, right, a certain look at a certain level, you automatically think, I don't belong. Right. And thank goodness we're at a point in society where women and minorities are now given the tools to build their own dang table. Right. Like thank goodness we're there. Right. Years ago, we wouldn't have even been able to do that. We just would have had to stay in our lane and do what was given to us. But now we're able to build our own table. And that's why it's important for me to be that visual representation and help other women build their table or their chair or their window, whatever it is they want, but just know that you can do it.
Yes. Yeah, that's so important. That's so important.
When
I think we've been going for 45 minutes now, and I want to kind of just wrap up and talk about.
I'm looking at the clock. That's impossible. Okay.
45 minutes. Is that crazy?
I know.
Longer than that. 50 minutes.
It doesn't seem like it. This is a very fast 45 minutes. Which takes forever.
Yeah. Let's talk about the future of automotive.
Cool.
You've been in this business, in sales management, in finance, as an owner. COVID struck. It still is here, and the world changed. And people started buying online and everything changed. So where do you see it going? Do you see the world continuing to change, or people wanting to just buy cars completely online? Like, where do you think the auto industry is going from here?
I feel as much as things change, they stay the same, as cliche as that sounds, particularly in the used car sector, right? I don't believe, and somebody can prove me wrong, that you can buy a used car online. People need to come in and drive that bad boy, see it, compare it, make sure it works for them. A lot of times there are other challenges associated with the used car buyer that need to be taken care of, that don't happen with new cars. So, and that's a relationship. That's not a robot transaction. That is a human to human, basic interaction, or not basic, but I mean, it's the second largest purchase a person's going to make. So it's not a basic transaction. It's a big transaction that people need to be massaged through and walked through. And so for us, sales are up. And a lot of it is because new cars are down. A lot of it is because Uber had launched a huge campaign that said, thank you for not Ubering. So now people need to buy their own transportation. Thank you, Uber. And so my take on it is, as far as pre-owned cars are concerned, I see nothing but up from here. I really do, because manufacturing with new cars is down. And that price point, right? My price point of $15,000 and below is a price point that hits 85% of the population, right? And again, like I said earlier, these people need cars, right? They got thrown into the buying process unwillingly, or they're confused. They need help, and we're here for them. We need to be here for them and treat them with the respect and dignity that they deserve. So I see all good in the future.
And in the future, I was going to ask you, because I stalked your website and I did notice that most of the cars were 15 grand or so. Now, maybe 10 years ago, there wasn't such a market for, the 15 grand car or thing. So do you anticipate, like, this current situation that we have where people are looking for that $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 used car in the future? Let's assume our world starts to stabilize. Do you still see that being the price point, like the magic number being 15 or under? Or do you see that changing, going lower, what do you think?
I see the magic number still being that 10 to 11, right? Unless in the 5, I mean, if you can find a $5,000 car, please, whoever's listening, tell me and just point me to all of them.
Yes, I know.
Because inventory is a challenge, right, Amanda, right now?
20 years later, they're still asking for this $5,000 car.
Yeah.
They're more easily massaged to stair step up a little bit, but I do think that because 15,000 gets you a nice car. It really gets you a nice, safe, reliable, respectable piece of transportation. And we stair stepped. Last year, our average price point was 9,000, and right now we're tickling 12,500. So we're stair stepping up a little bit. Just because I think you get a better car, right, at that price point, and we're doing okay customer wise.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
This used car market is just so volatile right now, right? So to ask somebody who's living in it completely, I always wanted to pick your brain. You're the first person I've had a chance to talk to, so thank you for answering that question. But 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
The other people I've talked to are like from franchises, and that what I meant from like.
I think their average used car is like 25 grand.
Well, yeah, it's like 26 grand, something like that. Average payment's like 480 on a used car right now.
I would have 0 customers. I've been selling to my family only. Yeah.
So Amanda, where do you go from here? I mean, you've successfully started a dealership. You're selling more cars than you ever have in your few years you've been in the market. Like where does GoJo Auto go from here? What's the future?
So my purpose, take out car sales. My purpose is to and empower and enlist women in automotive, right? Now, it's not restricted to women. If guys want to jump on the train, they're more than welcome to, but my focus is women because there's a disparity, right? We need help. We need guidance. We need to be told and educated that, hey, not only is this a lucrative career, it's flexible nowadays. There's a lot more schedule flexibility than there used to be. It's flexible, it's lucrative, and it's fun, right? And so my purpose and my passion is to get no less than 100 women introduced into the auto industry, right? But if I'm doing, where does GoJo go? Right now we do about 20 cars. I want us to get to 50 out of this office. And then I will get a traditional car dealership with service department. It's a beautiful glass building. I can see it. It's got popcorn machines on both ends. We're doing about 150 cars, and then I'd like to franchise GoJos and put about 5 in the major cities, the culturally diverse cities, right? So that we can just spread the GoJo gospel across the nation and see where it goes.
I love it. Spread the GoJo gospel. That has to be part of the marketing slogan. GoJo gospel.
GoJo.
That's awesome.
I love it.
That's the New Testament.
Exactly. Well, that is pretty amazing.
That is fantastic. That sounds like what a goal.
Yeah.
What a goal.
Yeah. No limits.
Well, and I think it's important. What you said was really important is your vision and mission aren't the actual business of selling cars, right? Like, right. And I've seen other leaders like that. You think of like the head of Starbucks. You think his vision was like coffee, but it's like connecting people. I think it was, right? It is like his vision. It's like, and he just happens to be in the coffee business.
Yeah.
And I think for you have a vision that is like so much greater than your business and selling cars. It's people, it's women, it's empowering. And that to me, like, is more lasting than anything you could ever do you know, in terms of selling cars.
Right. It's
so Matt, any final words, questions for Amanda before we let her go?
I got one final question. Amanda, if you could talk to yourself 5 years ago,
okay,
if you could talk to five year, what would you say? Knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself?
This is a tear-jerking question, Amanda. So try not to cry whenever you have to talk to yourself. I know I start crying. So, let me give you a minute.
My life looked a lot different than it does now.
Yes.
And I did not like the person that I saw when I looked in the mirror. I had no purpose, no drive. And 5 years ago, if I flashed back to 5 years ago, I would have told myself that this isn't the end. There's a whole lot of life left, and to just keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
I could have never, 5 years ago, I didn't even have sights of a dealership in my brain. And I mean, now I'm doing interviews with TrueCar and IPD and places I don't even want to name, and making a difference. And most importantly, I like who I see when I look in the mirror. And so yeah, there it is. Okay. So
pull it together.
So yeah, life looked a lot different, but it's never over. I mean, I'm 38 right now, and I feel like I'm just starting my life and figuring things out, and it's okay, right? I'm not like, oh, I'm so behind, I got to catch up. There's catch up to who? Catch up to what? I'm good. And so, and that's another thing, like I want to tell women, it's never too late to start a new life. We can reinvent ourselves. So you know how many times I've changed my hair and my eyelashes? Reinvent ourselves anytime at any given point, and it's okay. And the future is brighter than you can ever expect if you just trust, have faith, and put in the work. It takes work. It's not easy. But I think that's what gives the gratification is, you know, at the end of the day, I gave that day my all, and I can rest my head easy in that.
I love it. We have to end there. I mean, literally, we have to end there. There's nothing better than that advice you just gave. And I just think you're such an amazing person. I mean, forget this show, forget all your success. Like, I just love you as a person.
Made me cry. Okay.
I know. I'm gonna cry too. Matt, take over in this show.
Hey, if you want to reach out to Amanda, if you want to reach out to the Amanda Gordon, Amanda, how would people reach you if they wanted to? Do they want to reach you on Facebook?
So that's actually my handle on Instagram, the Amanda Gordon, and Facebook is Amanda Gordon or GoJo Auto. You can follow both. And you can find us on our website, gojoauto.com, info@GoJo Auto. If you have any questions for me or want to reach out, I'm an open book, as Carrie said. I'm very transparent. Yes. Yeah, I thank you so much for having me. I love doing this. And Carrie, I love you too. Thank you for being my inspiration, my muse.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are such inspiration, not just to women, not just to Black women, but to people, all people in the industry. So make sure to follow the Amanda Gordon on all kinds of social. You'll be so entertained, by the way. Her is it tip of the day? I always forget what you call it. The word of the day. What is it?
My highlight. It's my highlight of the day.
Oh my God, the highlight of the day. Just check it out. I'm telling you, it will make your life better. Her highlight of the day. And thank you, Amanda, so much for being on. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Okay. So, Matt, I got to say, Matt, my eyes, I didn't bring any tissue on, so I try to pull it together, but like, I love that woman. She's the best.
How can you not? I've never had the pleasure of meeting her, and this is my first real time interacting with her. I think I love her too. I mean, she's just incredible in every capacity. When you talk about from a business perspective, I want to make my world around me a little bit better perspective. I can see the future is bright perspective. There's just seems to be like no kink in that armor. She just seems incredible. You're lucky. The people who know her are lucky. I would say that.
Yeah. And you know what? Even if you see the chink in the armor, you like the chink. That's the thing. That's what you love about her. Is like she's not just perfect. It's like, no, she wasted money on the Nuggets game. Like, that's what I got out of it. Is like, you got to do.
You got to
And you
live
might
it.
make mistakes in the beginning, and that's okay. Like that was my lesson. What'd you get out of this?
My lesson was she saw opportunities from other people doing it and said, I know this, maybe I can too, right? Like that really resonated with me, because we see people all the time, especially in automotive, where you might, regardless of your title, you may actually be running the front end of the store. You might just be the sales manager who's been there for 7 years, but you're not the GSM, you're not the GM, but you're actually doing the hiring, you're doing the training, you're maintaining the money, you're doing all the books. But does it even occur to you that, hey, I know this, maybe I can go step out and do this for myself? And that's like what really just like shook me about her, was that she had the gumption to go out and say, somebody's doing it, why can't I do it? Matter of fact, I'm gonna do it.
How many Amanda Gordons are out there right now at restaurants, at the mall, at other companies and industries who aren't even thinking about automotive? That to me keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Like thinking about the talent out there that's not drawn to our industry, doesn't feel welcome, or we're not even going after. And what a waste. So I think there's an opportunity for our industry really to open up and to attract the best talent.
That's right.
The best talent.
That's why I think in automotive, we need to be deliberate. Like Amanda said that she was stolen out of a Gap store, right? She met somebody at the Gap store, and that person said, you need to come work with me, right? Yeah. I had the same experience. I was stolen out of a cell phone store. Somebody from a dealership said, hey, you need to come. So I've always thought, like, we kind of have a responsibility to keep our eyes open for people who we think could maybe make our industry better. Like somebody did with Amanda and said, hey, this would be a good spot for you. So we have a lot of responsibility. I'm just so glad that person went in there to go buy those jeans that day.
Yes. It's
so
true. It's so true. Well, this was another great show, Matt. It was good to be back on with you after a couple weeks of a break. I do want to just tell everybody who's still watching that if you are interested in Industry Insider, we're here every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. And if you're a TrueCar dealer or not a TrueCar dealer, you're interested in the TrueCar program, I just want to put up our dealership website, truecar.com/dealer. You'll get information on the program, our products, and our blog that has lots of best practices and tips to help you sell better. So, Matt, any final words?
As always, thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon, people who are watching.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.